Our two fun facts this week come in celebration of this past week's official return of regular season action in the National Football League. First, credit to both UNC and NC State for ranking in the top third of the Atlantic Coast Conference and roughly around the top 25 programs nationally in terms of the number of players that those programs have produced for the NFL here during that league's 2025 season. These numbers may surprise some people, and you can actually see all the details and documentation of this stuff in my recent articles at our website, ncsportsnetwork.com. All of these names and details are there. But among the 17 ACC football programs, only Clemson, Miami, and Florida State, probably the three that you would guess, have more players in the NFL right now than the Tar Heels do, and the gap is not as big as most people would think. The Wolfpack ranks a very close sixth in the 17-team ACC in this same category. These numbers can change from week to week because players get signed and they get waived, etc. But Carolina had 30 players on either active NFL 53-man game day rosters or on those teams' NFL reserves lists or sometimes injured lists, practice squads, etc. during week one of the regular season. That is largely, in Carolina's case, a tribute to the master recruiter, Mack Brown, who did the same sort of thing in Chapel Hill back in the 1990s during his first tenure with the Tar Heels. NC State had 28 players who fit this same category last week, with all but one of those guys, Russell Wilson, now with the New York Giants, being a product of the 13-year-long Dave Doran era in Raleigh. Those are pretty strong numbers for the two Power 4 public universities here in our state. So fun fact and a shout out at the same time. Fun fact number two is a celebration of the fact that in all, 15 of our North Carolina-based college football programs have one or more players in the NFL right now. After the Tar Heels and the Wolfpack, the NFL's opening weekend also included 20 products from Wake Forest, 19 from Duke, 9 from App State, 5 from East Carolina, and 4 each from the Charlotte 49ers and North Carolina Central, with those Eagles being a highly productive FCS program in terms of producing pro talent. In addition, the FCS programs at Campbell, Elon, and North Carolina A&T each have 2 of their former players in the NFL, as do the Division II programs at Fayetteville State and Lenoir-Rhyne. Closing out the list of North Carolina schools this year, in the NFL's Week 1 at least, Barton and Wingate, both Division II programs, each have 1 player in the NFL right now. If you want to remind yourself of all the great current NFL players who came through our state's college ranks, again, check out the full lists at ncsportsnetwork.com. I did one for the ACC. I did another for all of our in-state programs. UNC has Drake May starting at quarterback for the New England Patriots, of course, but the Tar Heels, would you believe, also had 8 NFL rookies who made the cut this year, either on a roster or a practice squad or a reserve list, led by the new LA Chargers running back Omarion Hampton, who, of course, was a first-round draft pick. And NC State, it's not just Russell Wilson. It's also a 4-time Super Bowl champion and 4-time All-Pro offensive lineman, Joe Thuney, who's now with the Chicago Bears from the early part of Dave Doran's tenure, or a guy like Peyton Wilson, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, from more recent Wolfpack teams. There are also amazing stories like that of Kyle Duggar of Lenoir-Rhyne, a rare example of a D2 player who became a second-round NFL draft pick. The New England Patriots selected Duggar that high back in 2020, and he is now in his 6th season starting at safety for that franchise, although there are some recent reports that he may finally be falling out of favor there.
Excuse me. I love sports, but sometimes, like when a t-shirt cannon hits me square in the nachos, I wonder, is Sport Clips better than sports?
Because sports plus a hot steamed towel beats sports plus hot exploding cheese.
I like your shirt.
Thanks. It was free. Sport Clips, it's a game changer.
Shout out to Louisville running back Isaac Brown and Louisville wide receiver Chris Bell, two all ACC caliber players who came up with huge plays on national TV last Friday night when the Cardinals were having a very hard time against an impressive looking James Madison squad in what turned out to be a 28-14 Louisville victory. With the Cardinals trailing JMU 14-6 in the third quarter, Bell caught a simple slant pass and turned it into a 64-yard touchdown. Later, with less than 4 minutes remaining and the game still in jeopardy, Brown clinched it with a scintillating 78-yard touchdown run on which he just flew past a bunch of would-be tacklers at the line of scrimmage and then just blew past more would-be tacklers down the left sideline. You can X and O all you want. You can draw it up in the most brilliant ways. Those were two examples, Isaac Brown and Chris Bell of Louisville, where really it was simply individual brilliance executing relatively simple plays that meant the difference in Louisville's victory over JMU. Big-time plays by big-time players in big-time moments. Shout out to NC State's Kean Sloan, who made the biggest play in NC State's 35-31 victory over Virginia last Saturday. On an afternoon when both State's CJ Bailey and UVA's Chandler Morris played very well at quarterback, and both UVA's Jamari Taylor, the NC Central transfer, and NC State's Hollywood Smothers were both sensational at running back. It just felt as if that contest might be decided by one huge fourth quarter play, and Sloan made that play. Game-saving interception in the end zone with about 1 minute remaining to preserve the Wolfpack's narrow victory. Sloan is a 6'4", 252-pound Utah State transfer whom the Wolfpack plugged immediately into the starting lineup at what they call their jack position, which is sort of a hybrid between a defensive end and a linebacker. On his interception, Sloan, remember, 250-plus pounds, his job was to cover UVA's star running back, Jamari Taylor, who can scoot, on a wheel route out of the backfield, which is not an easy assignment for anyone, much less a 250-plus pounder. But Sloan ran stride for stride with Taylor, and his technique was perfect, maintaining inside position the entire time. So when the pass came from Chandler Morris, Sloan was in perfect position. That play, remember, came on first down. So if Sloan had just batted the ball down in the end zone rather than come up with the interception, UVA would have had 3 more cracks at the end zone from the 12-yard line with a chance to upset the Wolfpack in Raleigh. Sloan's play was one of the biggest in the entire week in the ACC. So credit to that young man as one of the Wolfpack's new starters. Shout out to Wake Forest senior running back Damon Claiborne. We mentioned him earlier briefly, a guy who could have hit the transfer portal after Coach Dave Clawson stepped down last year, but decided to stay for his senior season with the Demon Deacons. After missing most of Wake's opener with a rib injury, Claiborne had 10 carries for 193 yards last week. Yes, that is more than 19 yards per carry. He also had 3 touchdowns in the Deacons' 42-10 triumph over Western Carolina of the FCS ranks. Last but certainly not least, at the Division II level, shout out to head coach Maurice Flowers, star quarterback Kelvin Durham, and the rest of the Johnson C. Smith football team. The Golden Bulls, coming off one of the best seasons in school history last year, hosted number 11 in the D2 rankings, Valdosta State last Saturday, and posted an impressive comeback victory, 28-16, on what was a brutally hot day in Charlotte on the school's Hall of Fame weekend. Talk about great timing. One wild aspect of the J.C. Smith story this year, and we'll explore more as they can continue to win, is that even though the Bulls had the returning first-team All-CIAA quarterback, guy named Darius Ocean, who set the school's single-season record for passing yardage just last year, Coach Flowers nevertheless went out and recruited another elite quarterback, Kelvin Durham, their star against Valdosta State, who had started for the past 3 seasons on some very successful teams at Fort Valley State. Well, Coach Flowers previously recruited Durham to Fort Valley State when he was the head coach at Fort Valley State. And now they are reunited and central figures in what might be a 3rd straight special season for Coach Maurice Flowers and his Johnson C. Smith University football program. Those are my fun facts and shout outs.
This has been Bold North State Football Daily, an exclusive presentation of the North Carolina Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on social media at the NC Sports Net, and check out our website that is wall-to-wall coverage of North Carolina sports at ncsportsnetwork.com. Our foundational partner is the North Carolina Pork Council, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Telling the stories of the Bold North State, this is the North Carolina Sports Network.